in the end it went like it did, and it's a horror show. This should not happen in the modern game with the amount of money that is about. But this project now should not be driven by Manchester United and Liverpool. This should be driven by the FA. Hello everybody and welcome back to Connor here, One Leeds Fan Channel. I hope you're doing fantastically well, and you might notice something a little bit different about what we've got on here. Yes, it's right guys, the merch for One Leeds. The link is in the description. This is the t-shirt. This is what I've wanted now for months. I wanted it out really early just so you guys can have a little bit of an affinity with what I'm doing right now. I want this community feel, this family, this One Leeds, this One City brand. I want this to be a thing. So if you want something similar, it's a really nice fit. As you can see here, one community, one family, one city, one Leeds. I just think it's a really nice, it works well. It's premium t-shirts as well, so go check out in the link in the description. We've got crew necks, we've got hoodies, we've got mugs, anything you want. So go check that out if you want something similar. As well, we're sponsored by Ship Bikes USA and Manscaped. Go check the link in the description for a 20% discount off. And yeah, guys, any donations, if you fancy making them to the channel, we've got PayPal. We had an episode that went on Patreon yesterday with Benjamin Bloom. A really good episode, so go check that out if you want to become part of the Patreon. We've got so many bonus things on there, exclusive free t-shirts, free mugs and stuff. But let's get into the video, shall we? So this is something that I didn't massively want to make, but I felt like I should make, being a Leeds United fan, being someone who is in the content creation sphere, being someone who maybe has a little bit of an influence. So yeah, I mean, on the road to 10,000 subscribers. So yeah, I mean, I've got a big audience. Guys, if you wouldn't mind as well, smashing that like button, smashing that subscribe button, so we can get to 10k as soon as possible. Maybe before the Wolves game, who knows? But yeah, project, I mean, what do you even call it? Project big picture. I mean, for me, it doesn't really look at the big picture, so that's the big problem. So this is going to be where sort of Manchester United and Liverpool, you've had Henry, who owns Liverpool, and you've had the Glazers, Joel Glazer, I believe, who is having a massive say in this whole project, stating that 250 million will be given to the EFL, 10 million will be given to the Women's Super League, and 100 million will be given to the FA as an accumulation of the loss of the Community Shield and the loss of the League Cup. There'll be money given as well to the National League, which is of massive importance. And before I start giving my personal opinion on this, I want to say that I was part of the lower leagues for a number of years. I was part of York City's academy until I was 17. I was part of the youth programme, so I understand the importance to lives of the National League, non-league. It's a huge part of people's lives, and I want to say that before I start this, because I agree that there should be help given to these facets and these teams and these people, but I don't think it should be going in this way. It seemed as sort of a rescue package by Manchester United and Liverpool, spearheading it as the saviours of the Football League. For me, it's just not that at all. Now, don't get me wrong, the lower leagues need help. Of course they need help, because the parachute payments have been a joke for years now. For me, from 2014 to 2015, when it started amping up and it was more and more, and the packages increased, the instalments increased, which just gave teams like Leeds at the time absolutely no chance of competing. So getting rid of that and sort of narrowing the gap a little bit, that has to happen. That has to happen, because at this moment in time, it's a complete joke. Look at Norwich going down this year. The amount of money they'll have in these 3-year instalments from parachute payments. It's teams like Luton, teams like Barnsley are never going to be able to even compete. So the level, straight away, that level there needs to be a gradual decrease. There can't just be that sporadic one down to there, but you've got this amount of money. It's not fair. It's not fair on any of the lower league teams, and that is where I completely understand. But for me, why is this driven by Liverpool? Why is this driven by Manchester United in the top 6, which we'll get onto in a little bit? This should have been driven by the FA. When Berry went out of existence, this was about weekly salaries. There was a lot more going on than that. We've had Macclesfield, we've had Berry. There is so much more going on than that. So let me not just leave it at the door of weekly salaries. But the blueprint of all this on Sky Sports was the fact that Berry and Macclesfield couldn't afford to pay the weekly salaries, which is why in the end, it went like it did, and it's a horror show. This should not happen in the modern game with the amount of money that is about. But this project now should not be driven by Manchester United and Liverpool. This should be driven by the FA. There is just so much to get into. For me, there are just so many cons. The pros are there. It's going to help so many clubs, but it just should not be club driven. This should not be driven by a cohort of wealthy clubs who are now getting more say and more parity in everything they're doing. This should be driven by the governing body or even the government as sort of a collective. It should not be driven by Liverpool, by Manchester United and by the other clubs that are in this conversation. And we're talking about the money, the figures, all this sort of stuff bandied around. Well, 250 million goes to the EFL. Then you're getting 100 million to help with the competitions, the cup competitions. Then you're getting 10 million to the Women's Super League. Okay, well, is there a payback clause? Is there something in that? You know, are these clubs just giving out the money free? Are they just doing it with incentive? I mean, I'm not really sure what's going on here. We don't know the fine print, the detail, but is there something in the contract which means that the lower league clubs have to pay this sort of money back? Is there a reduction in outgoings in other areas for the lower league clubs? Because surely this money isn't just been handed out like that. I mean, I know there's a gain for these top clubs, but just handing out that sort of money, surely that can't be how it's going. And for me, they're talking about the women's game and they're saying, you know, here 10 million goes toward the WCSL. That's great. That's fantastic. But it's sort of a bit of a shrug of the shoulders. It's page 3 of every document. It's page 4 of every document. It's not the standing points with the Women's Super League. For me, it's just a shrug of the shoulders. Yeah, we'll give them some money just to keep them happy. And it's just not how it should be. The Women's Super League is building at a superb rate, at an astronomical rate as well, globally. A lot of people are taking note of how brilliant the women are doing in the game, the women manage, you know, the managers and all this sort of stuff. It's fantastic. To just shrug off 10 million and give them there just to sustain the competition, it's absolute rubbish, and it's something which it's not seen as their priority. The top 6, they've got their targets, they know exactly what they're going for, and the Super League is just on the back burner. We'll just keep them happy there. You know, you forget that football is a holistic game. It's a huge game. There's so many branches under it. It's not just about what's going on in the men's league. There are so many different aspects to football. Now, the top 6 thing it's absolutely humorous. It makes me laugh so much. So, as well, why so Tottenham are part of a top 6 club. What validates that? Is it the fact they've been in the Champions League for X amount of years? Or, I mean, have they won anything? In my lifetime, they won the Worthington Cup, but that's it. And this is no disparaging comments at Tottenham, but why are Tottenham top 6? You know, what's this classification? Are we talking about revenue? Are we talking about media that's coming in? I mean, I know from a personal standpoint, across this year, Leeds are expected to make £15 million in shirt sales, which is astronomical. You know, for example, are Southampton making that amount of money? Are we talking just about revenue that's coming into the club? Because that's, from all the articles that I've read, that seems to be the blueprint. How much media revenue, how many TV appearances you get? Well, Leeds are going to be over Southampton. Villa are going to be over Southampton. Newcastle are going to be over Southampton. Are West Ham a bigger club than Villa? What are these classifications? I'm not sure. Is it the amount of time you've been in the Premier League? Because if that is the case, why am Manchester City in there and Villa and Newcastle aren't? Because they've been in the exact same amount of time. It seems like there is a loophole for the big clubs in this division. How on earth Manchester City have got into this loophole thing right now and teams like Villa, teams like Newcastle haven't? It's absolutely unbelievable. And this is where it is feeding into the notion that this is just the top 6, the ones who have the most money. They have the decisions, they make the decisions, and they don't really know the rules themselves. For me, it just makes this whole process very anti-democratic. You know, the Premier League has always been democratic. We know that there has to be 14 teams who agree to this out of the 20, but it just seems the top 6 are going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing this and putting masses and masses of pressure on the other 14, because they're going to get hated now from all the other EFL clubs, because obviously there's a massive advantage of monetary value for those clubs. So there's going to be massive pressure on us, on teams like Brighton, Villa, Newcastle, etc. And it just seems that this is just turning into a bit of a revolution, and it's not something that you want to see in football. I mean, what's the point in the top tier system? What's the point in the top 6? What's the point in getting into the Premier League? You might as well just split it up into an American system, into 16 teams and into regions. But obviously they're talking about as well having 18 teams in the division and 34 fixtures instead of 38, which is just going to benefit all teams. Of course it is. But it seems to be benefiting teams like Man City, teams like Man United and Liverpool a heck of a lot more. Are friendlies going to sustain as friendlies, or is it just going to be international tournaments where more money is coming into these big clubs? What's exactly going to happen there? I don't understand why on earth they're making it into an 18-team league as well. I mean, what's the point in that? There's going to be a higher risk of relegation for teams like Leeds. There's going to be a lack of revenue as well because of the games being reduced. It all just stinks for me. It all just stinks. And what is the point of the Championship having a playoff system if it includes a Premier League fixture as well? Surely the league standings are replicated on beating other Championship teams. What's the point in having 3rd, 4th and 5th play against 3rd bottom of the Premier League? That's not meritocratic. That's not who's been the best in the Championship that season. That's why they got rid of it in the 80s. And it all just seems to be a short-term release for these lower league clubs that need the release right now. And that's where they're doing such a good job, these top 6 clubs, in terms of manipulation for me. I don't think that long term they're going to be looking at the health of even a Leeds, even a Barnsley, even a Portsmouth or whoever, how far ever you want to go down. They're not going to be looking at that, because if you think about it logistically, what's going to happen and what these clubs have been looking for years is a European Super League. When there's a European Super League, there's going to be a lack of interest in the Premier League too, which it will be at that point. A lack of money, exposure, revenue, much less than what we're getting now, because everyone will be fixated on the European Super League. That will mean even less in the Championship than there is now, even less in League One than there is now, even less in League Two than there is now. So long term, it just gets worse. And this is where it all goes into the mindset of it's all of the benefit of the top 6 clubs. The top 6 clubs, which for me are just how they classify it is so annoying, because top 6, really? I mean, what are you basing it on? What are you basing that on? Top 9 is even funnier. It's genuinely funny. What about Leicester, who won the Premier League in 2013 and are absolutely massive across Asia and massive globally? But what? West Ham get in front of them. And I'm not saying West Ham aren't a bigger club than Leicester or are a bigger club than Leicester. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is, what are they classifying it on? How are Leicester a smaller club than Southampton? How are Villa a smaller club than Southampton or even West Ham? What is going on here? How are Manchester City in this top 6? The reason they're in the top 6 and the reason they're getting this whole pass or this loophole for being in that bracket, because it was supposed to be based on longevity in the Premier League, is because it's Man City with all the money. What about Villa? What about Newcastle, who've been in there as long as Manchester City? It's complete farcical nature. Listen, this is why the beautiful game is the beautiful games. It's all based on opinions. This is just my opinion. I think it's a complete farce. I think it's an absolute pay packet for the top clubs. And I think long-term, the lower league clubs are going to suffer. I think the long-term plan is going to affect the lower league clubs even more. This is just short-term for me. And there is only one objective in play here, and that is to get even more than they have now for the top 6. It's all about greed. It's all about wealth. And this is why it's just a shocking proposal for me. Lower league clubs should not be saved by Liverpool and Manchester United. Lower league clubs should be saved by the FA. That is what they're there for. That's the governing body. And the Premier League were coming out yesterday and opposing Rick Parry and saying, this shouldn't be going on behind our backs and all this sort of stuff. It doesn't even seem, from what you've read or what we've read, that the Premier League even know that much about it. The other 14 teams have been kept out of the loop. It's a top 6 ideology with a little bit of agreement from Rick Parry, because they know they can get the agreement of the lower league clubs. But as I keep saying, the long-term sustainability of this project is absolutely through the floor. It's not going to happen. Even daft things like the loss of cups. I get it. It's more games, but teams like Leeds, teams like Wolves, teams like Villa, Newcastle, whoever, that's an opportunity for us to win a trophy. It might happen. We might get relegated this year. This is just me thinking above the clouds here. But next year or the year after, I know what my club's blueprint is. I know where we want to be. So there's a tiny chance of us winning the Premier League again because of the parity of money. There's too much money involved now for us to even get near. But the cups, the trophies, the silverware, we've surely got to have an opportunity to win the League Cup. Why not? That's what I was thinking at the start of this year. Maybe next year or the year after we can build and win a cup like that, because it gives us an opportunity to win a bit of silverware. As I've just said, aside from that, it's near on impossible. But for me, it just stinks of being trumped by billionaires. It's maybe feeding into an American ideology of how they play sports, and it doesn't feel right. The democracy of football seems to be hopefully it's going to be held in a good stead, but we don't know how much they're going to press this, because the top six are not going to let this go, and as we know, money talks. So I don't know. There's so much fine print. There's so much detail that we don't know yet. But for me, it just absolutely stinks. And I hope I haven't offended anyone with this video. It's just my personal point of view. Hopefully, everything will be ironed out by articles and publications that we get to see some of the fine print. But as of right now, I'm completely against this. And that's not just because I'm a Leeds fan. Yeah, it affects me. Of course it affects me. It affects my club. We're going to have a lack of parachute payments if we do go down. There's going to be an increased risk of us going down because of an 18-team structure. There's going to be a massive reduce in revenue for the club, which is going to massively affect us, as I keep saying. So we're going to be going, let's say if we do go down, we're going to be hugely affected by that. But overall, this is just short term. Long term, when this European Super League does happen, which it will, there are going to be so many more clubs affected and so many more clubs going out of business because of a lack of interest, lack of revenue, lack of exposure long term as well. That for me is how it is going to go, and it's going to get on an even more increased level, and that's why the FA need to help the lower league clubs, not teams like Liverpool and Manchester United with a vested interest. It has to be the governing body who moderate football, who help football, who are in football. They need to put the money in. They need to help these clubs because these clubs need helping, but it cannot come from clubs with an interest, clubs who are going to earn something back from this, clubs who could essentially turn football. I just don't agree with it. So guys, let me know in the comment section below exactly what you think. I know it's been a bit of a controversial video, but this is just what I think. It's trending now. It's going to affect Leeds. It's going to affect every single football club. So let me know in the comment section below whether or not you're a Derby County fan, whether or not you're a Plymouth fan, whether or not you're a Leeds fan, whether or not you're a City fan. Please let me know. And yeah, football's all about opinions. I don't want anybody to get offended by this video. It's just my personal opinion. And yeah, I'm expecting a heck of a lot of responses back. So have a wonderful day. As I say, check out the merchandise, check out the PayPal and the Patreon. We've got some episodes coming up this week on there as well. Have a great day, and I'll see you in a bit.